The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this war. Get a pride of the falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me, where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I'll be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-pilot, Mrs. Gio.
Good evening, everyone.
And do we have an incredible show for you? We have the Rickest of Ricks on with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller will be joining us here in just a few moments. If you haven't heard this guy is amazing. He will send you in several different loops and spins all over the place. We've had him on the show many times before, but it has been a long time. In the past, we've gotten into everything from the Anarchist Cookbook to ayahuasca to demonology to black magic rituals, secret societies, and everything that lays beyond the veil.
Yes.
How is Mrs. Gio?
I am great, fantastic, ready for another great interview with him because it's been, like you said, it's been a long time since we've had him on the show. And I think we haven't had him on since we started doing video on Beyond the Veil. So I'm really looking forward to it.
No, we've had him on since then.
Have we?
We have. We did a video show with him a while back.
Okay.
It was at the very beginning when we first started making the change to video.
That's what I said when we first started doing.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't had him on
so
since
we didn't
then,
have our
so.
setup like this back then. You know, we were still figuring out everything.
Now it's real impressive.
Yes,
and pro.
for sure. So, on that note, we'll be right back with Dr. Richard Allen Miller right here on Beyond the Veil.
Swifty in here. It's time to get swifty. You gotta get swifty. Oh yeah. Take off your pants and your panties. Shit on the floor. Time to get swifty in here. Gotta shit on the floor. I'm Mr. Bulldogs. I'm Mr. Bulldogs. Take a shit on the floor. Take off your panties and your pants. Swifty in here. Show me what you got.
Morty, good music comes from people who are relaxed. Just hit a button, Morty. Give me a beat.
Oh man, okay, right.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise. Follow your conductors. And fear no danger. As you step beyond the veil.
All right, before we bring Dr. Richard Allen Miller on, Teresa in the comments said that Hawaii has started to confiscate CBD oil. So I wanted to take this opportunity to plug our... Oh, I shouldn't have done that because the music stops. But anyways, to plug our CBD oil. Can you adjust that camera for me?
Yes, absolutely.
To plug our CBD oil, Aya Life. That's ayalife.com. We have created some international labels, so they don't say CBD or hemp on them when we ship them out. They just say coconut oil because it's a coconut oil base. And we infuse the CBD and the ayahuasca into the coconut oil. We have had so many positive reviews on this. I mean, everybody from people with tennis elbow. I used it when I jacked my knee up at the gym doing deadlifts. It's given me the motivation and the spark to go out there, and I've lost about 40 pounds so far, and I've gained about 15 to 20 pounds of muscle. I mean, you know, my arms are getting really big now and just rock hard. We had somebody call in, and their husband had what is that the disease that makes you shake, Parkinson's.
Yeah, Parkinson's.
And she said that it's the first time her husband has slept through the whole night.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one comment after another that we're receiving about this, and it's worked so well for people. But what happened recently is they passed a law to make CBD pharmaceutical. And some states are running with it, like Hawaii, I guess, and in some countries as well. So, yeah, we just definitely want to get this out to people. So if you want to go to ayalife.com, that's ayalife.com, we'll slap an international label on there for you and get that out to you. What do you think, Mrs. Gio?
Definitely. I think it's a great idea for anybody to try CBD oil at least. I mean, give it a shot. It has literally no, I mean, at least with me, with Chris, with everybody that I've heard from, it has literally no bad side effects. It doesn't interact with anything, and it works. It really works. And I don't know if you guys can see very well, but if you look at videos of me when we were in Egypt versus videos of me now, you know, I look completely 100% different.
She's got a pedunk now. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, look, I'm getting like muscle definition here. You can see like I've got like triceps sticking out and everything. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And there's Mrs. Gio.
There we go.
You have to wear something lighter color
Yeah.
so people can see it better. But
yeah, I've gained 30 pounds
Mm-hmm.
in the past year.
yeah, everything is. That's the thing.
Everything's leveled out.
It brings you back to balance.
Exactly.
I think that's why it's working so well.
Exactly.
Because the fusion between the CBD and the ayahuasca, which
Mm-hmm.
is something that nobody has ever done before. But once we did it, boom, it just like both of the molecules just work hand in hand together. So yeah, check that out. Aya Life, that's ayalife.com. So
Definitely.
without any further ado, we have Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Do you have a bio for him
I
that you want to go over?
I do indeed. Dr. Richard Allen Miller has a long and extensive resume in the fields of physics, metaphysics, and agriculture. He's been involved in research and projects, many at top secret level, that have formed the basis of several modern-day scientific inventions. His work includes foundational papers on a holographic concept of reality, which we will definitely get into, and embryonic holography, and work with microwaves and synthetic telepathy. He was used as Timothy Leary's experimental guinea pig to see what the effects of LSD were when taken by a Mensa-level genius. Dr. Miller was a real-life character that the X-Files' Fox Mulder was based on, investigating unexplained phenomena for Navy SEAL Corp and MRU, which put him in the path of many incredible life experiences. The website is richardallenmiller.com. That's Richard Allen with one L, Miller.com.
And of course, he is the Rickest of Ricks.
Yes, he
Yes. Rick, how you doing?
Miller time. That's what, yeah, okay. Thank you. What would you like to talk about today?
We can get into
by the
everything.
way, ayahuasca, not dimethyltryptamine.
No. This is the extract
No.
from the ayahuasca vine that we
Yeah.
do. We don't throw. We don't ship out dimethyltryptamine. Not yet.
No,
But as soon as they
You
change a
can
few
make it.
laws, we will.
Oh, absolutely, we will. But
But I have a story to share with you though. And I don't think we ever told you about this. But about a year ago in May, Cherie and I went to Egypt completely blind. We wound up doing ayahuasca rituals at the Temple of Hatshepsut, one at the Temple of Isis at 3:00 in the morning, and one in the Great Pyramid at midnight in the sarcophagus. And we filmed it all, and we live streamed it on Facebook. What do you think about that?
Well, did you go back for seconds?
We need to, but after the video, after the video footage, though, I'm afraid that if we go to Egypt, we're gonna get kicked out.
There's a duplicate of Stonehenge, and we used to, as neo-pagans with Church of All Worlds, do sacrifices or fake sacrifices on the altars there. It's kind of cool. It's in Goldendale near Yakima. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I did not know that.
But I know that there was a wood henge
So there was
and a
this
straw
guy that
hinge.
was a Satanist, and he became a Christian and formed a thing called the Bible-mobile. And he was on Walter Cronkite, going across the country to deliver a sermon to the great Satan in Seattle, Washington, which was May. Beltane occult books and supplies back when I was a Navy SEAL. And David Bowie used to come to my bookstore because I had things he couldn't get in London. And I remember they followed him across the country, and just as he was crossing the bridge down near Goldendale in Yakima, his Bible-mobile blew up in the middle of the bridge. Boy, it made my business thrive.
Wow.
Well, they thought I did a spell or some weird thing. It's the coincidences are abounding, and it's always fun. I remember coming to my bookstore one day, and they were trying to frighten me, but they put a dead dog on my doorstep with a scroll stuck in its mouth with secret lips on it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's voodoo.
Somebody was calling me a black magician earlier, and I said, "Look, I'm not a black magician. I do black magic and white magic. I have been openly bisexual for years."
Well, here's Isaac Bonwit that started the Druid thing when he was writing for Llewellyn. He got a thesis at Berkeley called Magic. He got a degree in magic, and he wrote a book called Real Magic. And that chapter you're talking about was called Black Magic, White Magic, and Living Color.
Ah, nice, nice.
Well, magic has nothing to do with religion. It's sleight of mind. I remember being at the down in Hollywood. There's this big building that's where they do magic, and I forget what it's called, but it takes weeks to get in a thing. And I was sitting there at the front table because somebody asked me if I wanted to go, and I said sure. And I got the head table in one day, and the owner came up and he said, I see there's a little lapel on your thing, and I recognize it. It must be a magic society. And I said, yeah, it's OTO. And he said, well, how does it differ from my magic? And I said, well, you're sleight of hand, and I'm sleight of mind. Ooh. And that is the new direction in physics right now. It's the study of altered states of consciousness as tools in a toolbox. Because when you're in an altered state, the laws of physics change. Mm-hmm. You can, well, no, they do. In hypnosis, you're going over this state over here, and your ability in guessing is 400 times over where you are in consciousness. Over there, you can have the strength of 10 people, like someone on methamphetamine. Rip a car door off. And it isn't adrenaline that's making the bone in your body stronger than steel. You're moving to a different universe. And most people are going from one universe to another so quickly. I wouldn't vape, by the way. You don't want to have them see the inhale, exhale. What I would do is have it come out your ears. Really get, oh no, that's showmanship. That's if you took that in and then all of a sudden had a little thing where the thing came out, people would buy that one.
That is true. That is true. But it's not showmanship for me. It's just nicotine addiction.
Yeah.
I'm down to 3 milligrams though,
Yeah.
but I can't let go of this last 3 milligrams. Ugh.
Well, the way you do it is you realize that the vape is more deadly than the tobacco.
Oh,
I've
really?
heard
By
that.
the way, tobacco and nicotine is an insecticide, so nothing lives inside your body, too.
That's a good point. Let me
that's
ask you this
true.
about amphetamine, though, because Cherie and I have been working with MDMA recently,
Mm-hmm.
pure MDMA.
How about Adam and ecstasy? Oh, wait.
Oh, we did that. We did that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Listen, man. I remember when they played the banner down at in San Francisco, and all those that are God meet up at the stage, and there was this big surge and the movement as everybody got there. Do you remember what it was like in the old days when you would take so much acid you didn't even get off?
Yeah. I mean, back in my day, we had, I think it was LSD 6. So, I remember we would take 3 or 4 of them. It was a good trip. These days, the kids are taking like 10. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, what's going on? And
Why
they
is
told
it
me,
not
it's
working?
much weaker these days than it
Yeah.
was. But back in your days, it was LSD 25 straight up. So,
Yes, that's right, with Bill Osley. And
Yeah.
that van that went into 5 states without stopping. And we made it in a van while we were driving. That's how it worked. That's the old days. Yeah, I thought that was. And by the way, dimethyltryptamine back then was called telepathine.
yes.
Telepathine,
Well,
that's right.
Rick, the kids I hang out with, they'll do Molly, acid, and then they have a 3-foot bong for their DMT. And they'll load it up and fill the entire chamber and then hit it while they're candy flipping. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you guys are like too
That's
hardcore
way
even for me.
hardcore.
Yeah.
So, when what's his face owned the Viper Club, he sent a bunch of bikers up in a limo to have me come down and teach everybody how to do absinthe. That's how I used to do all my workshops. At the end of the workshop, I would select certain people, and we'd have an absinthe ritual.
Oh, really?
Yours were optional. Yeah.
I've never
Now
tried
that
absinthe.
one is kind of interesting because the green fairy that they talk about is a rare protein that changes in the luge, going from very hot when you drop the liquid fire of the cube into the thing and it heats up the thing, and then you hit it with ice water. The disparity between the two, hot and cold, is where the green fairy lives. And the more you can get this broader thing, the greener it is, and it's a rare narcotic that is quite interesting.
I've never
Nice.
tried it.
Yeah, imagine that, huh?
Well, let me ask you this, Rick, because we were working with the Molly or the MDMA pure. I'm not talking about street garbage. This is pure, tested, all that stuff. I
You
noticed.
gotta have fetish clubs next.
Well, the first
Whip
time,
her up.
well, that's Cherie and I were getting ready for something like that,
I'll
and
bet. That's
then we
what the
take.
drugs do, man.
Well, no, but
Oh,
listen. So we take it and we find it to be more of a portal than anything else. Like
Yeah.
we put all our toys to the side
More
and we're like, hold on, we
psychedelic.
need to get
When
into this
I
experience.
when I was a scientist working ops, I was in anesthesiology, and Dr. Moore was doing ketamine, telepathine, and BZ studies, and Delgado was doing chip implants, and I'm not even going to tell you what I was doing. And when they brought me in, Marcia Moore, Dr. Moore's wife, had written a book for Llewellyn on astrology and was hanging out with George Adamski and Wayne Aho up in Arlington with a UFO group. And they brought me in when they found her severed head in the Florida Everglades 2 hours before she was dead in Seattle.
Wow.
Ooh.
That's the kind of thing I did. Now, ketamine is Negadev, and others have written about this. Trout, others. This is a portal of sorts that will take you into another sets of universes that I don't think man's ready for.
Well, that's what I want to get into, Rick, because, okay, so let me finish this thought because it's really important and relevant to what you're talking
Sure.
about. The first time Cherie and I did the Pure, I noticed that she had kind of faded out of reality for a minute. Like I could see through her body. And she was saying at the time she actually teleported somewhere else. We did this again a couple of weeks ago, and we're asking ourselves, can amphetamine in MDMA form be used as kind of a teleport or maybe even time travel or bilocation or something like that? Your thoughts?
I did my tour. I'm an old man now, and I've lost everything. My sanity, my knuckles. I've got scars on them from dragging them. I drool. Whenever you take a mind alternate like that, you're performing an act of magic. You're going into an altered state of consciousness, and the rules are different for each one of those. And you and May don't know the landscape. And ketamine is at the top end, where negative talked about stick entities, people behind you. You can't see in 2 dimension. And I have concerns because what you're taking is actually a toxin. And what you're trying to do is stimulate your brain to produce more of the neurotransmitter that's a lookalike to ketamine. And when I say that, lysergic acid diethylamide is a toxin, whereas lysergic acid amide is a neurotransmitter. And what taking LSD did is jumpstart my brain in producing more of that. And that particular neurotransmitter is the aha drug. That is the one that connects one dot with the other. And the bad news is it's arbitrary because it's about imagination. And that is what's reality. And so any dot, unrelated, can be connected using lysergic acid amide as a neurotransmitter. And that's the next direction in where physics is going, and learning how to release these neurotransmitters without having to take toxins. And that's what I'm writing about right now, how to do that. The chill that goes up down your spine, that's Sri Aurobindo and Gopai Krishna. And that drug is N, and hyphen dimethyltryptamine, which is quite different than Rick Strassman's drug. And when we were studying it, I was interested in the pineal gland and what it's for and its purpose. And the pineal gland essentially has a series of purposes, one of which is to regulate the body to seasonal changes. And that's why it's atrophied. It's because we have artificial lighting and screens like this right now that fool my mind on the solstice. By the way, this is the solstice.
Yes,
it is.
the summer solstice.
Yeah,
Happy summer solstice,
running
everyone.
across a bonfire naked. That's what I'm doing.
I'm glad we were able to catch you before that started.
Well, in terms of artificial reality, though, well, first of all, correct me if I'm wrong, but LSD is less toxic than vitamin C. I was talking to some of the kids. I was talking to some of the kids on the forum, and I was telling them, "Hey, be careful with LSD, et cetera." And they corrected me, and they showed me the paper showing that vitamin C tabs are actually more neurotoxic than LSD is. Have you heard that?
It's like Roundup.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, what it does goes in and strips everything out of your body, which is why you take it.
Right. Right.
It's just a little indiscriminate, which means it grabs everything.
That's true. That's true.
But
when it comes to artificial reality, though, can we use these substances to hack the matrix, to hack the digital world around us?
Right, because Doug Engelbart actually developed the computer mouse because of LSD.
This place, right now, consciousness, where you are right this moment, this isn't real. There are Aborigines that have been around longer than we have that would have, dream states. dream time, that like lucid dreaming has more content to reality than consciousness does. That's Stephen Kaplan Williams and the Jungian Sanoid Dream Manual. That's an exceptional ritual thing. You should, when you do these things, if you have a switch, like they do in magic, where they draw a circle around themselves and they do the quadrants, and Ariel, Zuriel, Machiel, that kind of thing. That's going from the profane into the sacred. The magic I learned, the original magic I learned from Randy Coucher, the Chief Lizard from Von Bodie. He would not shave, take a bath until he's going to do a ritual. And he used to stink all the time.
Yeah.
Well, going from the profane into the sacred.
Right.
Switch. And that's the problem with kids. There's no way to assimilate the experience. That's why Leary wrote his book on the varieties of psychedelic experiences. The rituals were followed from the Bordeaux Thadal, which was the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And why I like to refer to that is because that book is an example of something beyond even the Upanishads that talks about the moment of death. And the last choice you have, at the moment of death, you have a choice. You either go to this tunnel of light, where all your friends are high, the water's fine, there's my dog, da-da-da-da-da, or you go into the blue light. And the blue light is getting off the wheel, and the tunnel of light reminds me of a birth canal.
The blue light, that's interesting. I just had a recent experience where I saw a computer brain, and it was emanating a blue light. I know that
that's because they're using these bullshit toxic blue. The blue that's on these little LEDs, it's toxic.
Oh, yeah.
Long ultraviolet, yes.
Well, I've always thought that the white light is the reincarnation machine. I mean, I saw it myself in the deep states of...
And that's the border. This is not the Bible. This is beyond that. And by the way, that crashed spaceship on the other side of the moon is probably Buddhist. I have seen their technology. I went, when I was working military, they have these big long horns. That they blow. And if they put them in a certain geometric array, will so compress the air.
That's a good point.
Lift large stones, and you can push them with a finger. I've seen that.
That is a great point. I'm familiar with that, and now that you say that, something resonated. Just this kind of familiarity and this gnosis from
the
previous
Bible,
lives.
Yeah, the religious Bibles, are actually scientific books. The Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, is relating sound to words and how you pronounce the word of God. And the sound, if you pronounce Yod He Vahe correctly, will move mountains. And this is technologies from previous epochs. And the way they did it was the other side of the brain. The right and left brain is science and religion, our soul and Nibiru. Go figure. It's a cavitation process where you're going into the out of.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
So, in terms of the nature of reality, that's what people want to hear about. I mean, I think that magic and psychedelics especially are ways to hack reality, because with psychedelics, I found that to be the most powerful magic tool. I mean, the manifestation and the visualization that you can do under psychedelics, I think is way stronger than any kind of ritual or anything like that, because you're using all of your mind at that point, completely and totally lit up, just on fire. But at the end of the day, the only reason we can do all this, in my humble opinion, is because we are living inside of a computer simulation. So your thoughts as far as AI and the nature of reality?
It's a metaphor. It's a way of trying to express why this isn't real. We're in the future. Here we are with, at the moment of death, there's a 5-gram weight loss. And that is structured water in a microtubule that's on the surface of the skin. And that's where 5 grams of structured water is enough for 100,000 lifetimes in memory systems. It's 1,000,000 times more efficient than gallium arsenide, the crystals that we use now in the so-called forbidden zone. What you're talking about in structured water is exclusion zone. And the different kinds of water that there are, my goodness, deuterium. Did you know that Antarctica and the whole ocean down there, that's all mostly deuterium. It's not heavy water. It's not water. It's not H2O. It's deuterium. It's slightly different. Tritium is more, as an isotope, is a more unstable and doesn't exist for very long. And deuterium, there's whole oceans of it. That's where they're mining it right now. And they use that right now with fullerenes to make a neutron fullerene fusion bomb. And the precision on that is 1.4 nanometers. It's something out of Star Trek. There's no forensics. They put this little carbon rod in something, and they ignite it using a teleportation laser. And Carnegie Mellon has a little trigger mechanism, and you ignite that deuterium inside that buckyball, and you have a controlled, and they're deploying that weapon everywhere right now. Do you know that?
I did not know that.
Me either.
Imagine that. Whoa, who was that masked man? And that's when Building 7 came down. You saw a 1,019-foot steel beam fall, essentially in free fall, and turn into vapor. And there's only one thing in nature that does that, and that's a plasma. And so that was where they beta tested it. The weapon came from the Mossad. The Mossad were not part of 9/11, but they knew about it. And the whole thing was a false flag to get a terrorism bill through Congress.
Oh, yeah, of course. Let me ask you this.
Well, not of course. I noticed that Sandy Hook got its first win on a lawsuit stating that it actually happened.
Well, it has been ridiculous what's going on with Sandy Hook. You've got Jim Fetzer that was sued, Alex Jones. They've been planting illegal photographs. I'll just leave it at that so we don't flag YouTube with that keyword. But, illegal photographs on Alex Jones's servers. I mean, it's getting bad.
There's all kinds of things going on. What happened in Las Vegas is, yes, it turns out that was an attempt on the Saudi prince's life. And they had it be a gun running operation go down. There was a helicopter shooting people arbitrarily.
Oh, wow.
So today, what I'm realizing is that anything you could possibly imagine is true and more. And that is accurate. Drugs, what defines a drug from a pharmaceutical?
Well, let me tell you the definition of a drug. It's a substance or chemical that when introduced into the body creates a physiological response or reaction. Therefore, H2O is a drug. Oxygen is a drug. Everything is a drug because once it enters the body, it has a physiological change.
Yeah.
So people always say, I don't need drugs. And then they turn around and say, well, I do this meditation where I do this deep breathing. And it's like, well, oxygen is a drug. You're just doing oxygen, okay? We're using the nuclear weapon equivalent of a BB gun.
That's the adenosine triphosphate is where cold fusion occurs in your body.
Mm-hmm.
A little quark gluon plasma that doesn't exist in nature except at the moment of the Big Bang. And you're constantly creating universes inside yourself. Isn't it interesting that everything that you eat becomes you? How's that work?
That's a good point.
You are what you eat. And you eat what you
Well, yeah, that's the worm Ouroboros.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, Little House of Horrors. Feed me, Mama. Feed me.
Well, let me ask you, since we're talking about nefarious tech, Rick. What are your thoughts on 5G? I've seen the conspiracies. I haven't made up my mind about it. I haven't seen it in any experiences. So yeah.
I'm speaking of Paradise was where the meters went unstable, and those so-called laser lines. That was one smart meter talking to the next one, and the fires that happened were so terrible that the thousands so missing people are probably in charcoal. You see steel slagged and trees still standing next to it. How does that work? Now, 5G in itself is toxic to the body. There's dosimetry and LD50 ratios on that. There it is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Dr. Beal out of Florida. That takes care of that argument.
Oh,
However,
interesting.
what they're going to do, there's towns now after Paradise that are outlawing 5G. Katati, in Oregon, it would be Curry County. What you're going to find is that they'll install it, and then they're going to have to charge you to remove it.
Oh, that's just...
That's how it's going to work. It's all done. It's all about money. And the whole thing is a end game weapon. If you have 5G, okay, here's how it played. They first started with beta testing in prisons where they were on opiates, and now we're going to put them on antipsychotics. And they beta tested the antipsychotics in the prisons. Oh, 1 in 5 people is unstable. We'll give them to children.
Right.
Then we'll use voices in their head. We'll have a second shooter with a tap on scopolamine. And now you have law enforcement without the law present. How many people with an AI, and you got a smart meter on your thing there, an AI can select one person out of another. How many people in your neighborhood are on antipsychotics? There's your law enforcement.
That's a good point. And for people that aren't familiar, scopolamine is the mind control drug. They call it zombie powder in the in South America.
It's a tropine alkaloid. Like there's tropine, atropine, and scopolamine. Scopolamine, when you tap it, can make you go crazy.
There's,
that's one of the reasons I do psychedelics so much, though, Rick, is because I feel that by holding on to the consciousness in such disconnected states, you're less prone to these outside influences because you have a good, firm control of your consciousness. I mean, if I've hallucinated so much. I mean, okay, that's a good point, Cherie.
Yeah.
In Egypt, they tried to slip us some Valium and drug us, and I'm like, I know exactly what this is. This is Valium. All right, Cherie, we got to get out of here because something weird is going on here, et cetera, et cetera. We were totally cool about it. But had we not been familiar with the psychedelic states and outer worlds of consciousness, we would have probably been kidnapped.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. There's different classes of drugs, and sedatives and muscle relaxants are different. And Valium is not a depressant; it's a muscle relaxant. It's different. So I got into the drug world where I was writing chemistry. When you find dimethyltryptamine and some of these extremely exotic neurotransmitters in the simplest of plants like crabgrass, that's now starting to remind me that that's a delivery system from God. And what you should be aspiring toward now, because you've done your tour with psychedelics and raves, and you haven't gone into fetish clubs yet, but that'll be next.
Actually, let me share a story with you. So I was getting into, I was talking to this girl online. I was like 20, 21 years old, something like that. And about 5 houses down the street from me, there would be this big party that would meet every single weekend. And I thought it was just bikers or whatever. And she says, "Hey, you want to go to a fetish party with me?" I said, "Sure, send me the address." It's 5 houses down from my house.
Yeah. There's a book you should read called Kink. That's a good book to read. It'll tell you that 80% of the American public are into some form of bondage.
Interesting. I did not know that. Well, have you seen, there's a Netflix show called The OA, and it's a really interesting show. And the one of the characters, he has people in his basement, locked in his basement, and he's forcing near-death experiences on them and then studying them, and he uses scopolamine to knock them out and make them forget that they're having these experiences. Have you seen the OA?
What was that movie where they do near-death experience, and the guy has a...
You introduced me to that movie, the one where they have near-death experiences. Flatliners. Is that
Flatliner? There
Yeah.
it is. You want to be creepy on that? There's another rare video. I'm into rare videos, real kinky ones. One called Liquid Sky. Try that one.
Liquid
Sky.
is
Okay.
about an alien that lives in the eaves because it feeds off what we call shooting galleries and the the hives that you're going, because you are attracting all kinds of rodents and ticks and Alabama ticks and chiggers. Trust me when I tell you that. There is that's how a ghost becomes a poltergeist. It's being decayed by the same kind of an entity that's feeding off people that are doing these drugs. That's why when you do ritual, when you take the drug, you do a ritual. You put that circle around yourself because this is you, and everything outside there is not you. That's even Walt Disney. You should be realizing that you're like doing channeling and Ouija boards in open flames, and there's all kinds of other entities that you haven't even met yet.
I don't know, Rick. In my experiences, I find that the entities are more afraid of me than anything else. We've come to that point now where I'm like, there's a demon that shows up, and I'm like, get out of here.
It's like, okay.
And they're like, hey, wait a minute. Why aren't you trembling in fear? And I'm like, because I'm not a fucking novice.
What a demon is your shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You. And it wants to have more. And when you give it acknowledgement, it's not zero. That's the first place. The second place is power. Then it goes to clarity. Oh, yeah, castanedas, form evils of man. And the last one is old age. Too old to do anything about it. That's where I am. I have been doing this a long time. I am Dr. Strange. I don't know anybody with my background in the occult, and I can tell you there's all kinds of creepy out there that you haven't even dreamed of yet. And it's just like in the comic books. And
I don't know. I've seen the octopus, and that was pretty hardcore.
We'll call it Shumagarth. That's out of Doctor Strange and Marvel 100. Nick Fury upside down. Yeah, I've done my tour, and the drug part, where it's at, is like biofeedback. I was in my Seventh-day Adventist doctor, and that son of a gun is trying to find something wrong with me, so he can put me on meds, put me in a corner, and he can go ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. And he's a Seventh-day Adventist, and he's into drugs. So he come into his office, he's all really excited, and then he takes my pulse. 155. Oh, we're going to have to put you on meds because you're supposed to be at 130. And I said, cuff me. And what I was able to do, I put it down to 129, and that's that. Now, you need to learn how to do that with neurotransmitters. And when you do that, that's when you become a magician. It's called, in the ontologies of mystical states, there's the trance, art, creativity. And creativity is when you have full knowledge and doing sex magic, biofeedback, and that kind of thing. And the ontologies of mystical states are written up in many things, like the Jhana states of the Upanishads. There were 8 different cosmic consciousnesses, and I have. Well,
we're getting into some deep stuff, Rick. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. On the other side, let's get into magic. Let's get into all of these different spiritual technologies that Richard Allen Miller is speaking of right here on Beyond the Veil.
Live in a tank and be tied into this virtual world. You'll be able to wire your head in and just get unlimited pleasure. It'll feel like 10 times the best orgasm for 3 days if you want straight. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. The DMT. There's the owners of Truth Frequency Radio. They believe they're communicating with entities. They call them clockwork elves. I'm not going to get into what they're interfacing with. They believe they're in contact with off-world groups. Chris Geo, Truth Frequency Radio, he takes it. You see the elves, little green hats. We're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We're in trouble. The clockwork elves, all of it, I shouldn't even get into it. There's a reason they're all whacked out of their minds. They're taking DMT. And the point is that their whole science is way ahead. We don't even know what they've got. They're in power because they're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. You think they're all a bunch of old men? They're in power because they were into this stuff 70 years ago. The DMT. They were jacking DMT 70 years ago. They were injecting it. They're taking the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Chris Geo took the DMT. Hitler took the DMT. Stalin took the DMT. Mao took the DMT. Truth Frequency Radio took the DMT.
All right, I'm still waiting for Mrs. Geo, so we'll play one more.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap. Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Gay. Frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like a frogs. Gay. Friggin' frogs. Frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Frogs.
My fellow travelers, always remember to walk uprightly and circumscribe your desires as we travel upon the level of time to that undiscovered state of consciousness, traveling to the place where once obtained, no traveler returns. The place of raw consciousness which awaits us when we have passed beyond the veil.
Alright, I'm still waiting for Mrs. Geo to get back, but I'm sure she will be back momentarily. But Richard Allen Miller is on with us, and we're going to get into sex magic, rituals, black magic, how essentially to hack the Matrix, and the reality around us. I would go so far as to say, though, that magic is merely a hack for the Matrix, but also the intention behind it does everything. Like black magic, white magic, all that, etc., etc. It is what it is, but it's your intention. I think that magic in and of itself is neutral, and it depends on what kind of intention you put into it. So it's up to you on what kind of consciousness you have and what your motivations are to use these kind of spiritual technologies. But I know one thing for sure: these spiritual technologies are looked poorly upon by the New Age, by religion, etc., etc., because they work. and they don't want you to have these kind of tools. That's another reason, in my opinion, why psychedelics are looked upon so poorly. As Terence McKenna said, the New Age is looking for anything as long as it doesn't work. But you get something like psychedelics that actually does work, and they're like, no, 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 we want nothing to do with that. Same with these different types of tools to hack the matrix. So, Richard, where would you like to begin on the topic of magic?
Well, that's a heavy duty. You see, I did magic for $10,000 once, and I got it, but not the way I wanted. A truck ran over me, and it was my medical.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
That's how it works. And so your intent is absolutely correct. And what the purpose is to become more spiritual. And spirituality is not what you do, but how you do it. That's how you get closer to the Lord. And it isn't what you do, it's how you do it.
You know, I got to say this, though, Rick. You keep mentioning God and the Lord and all this, and I'm like, oh, like, I don't see a creator being here except for us. We are the creators.
Well,
but
stay tuned.
can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, here they come in their spaceship. And actually, we didn't start on Earth, and Nibiru is probably our future coming in to collect the rent. There, how's that one for metaphor?
That's pretty good.
Down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I was interested in magic to armor myself with the lodges. When I came out of graduate school, Jesus, I got assaulted by Skull and Bones, Bohemian Grove. They all took a dive at me because I'm a polymath. And what I did is I became a Hermetic Kabbalist. I studied 6 years with Gershom Scholem up in New York City College. I had to learn Old Hebrew and Greek. And I did my own translations. And that's where the metaphysics, meta audiobooks that I sell now is when PC Link became AOL, Mark Hume hired me to work interactive educational system out of Humboldt, and I did online classes, which is basically the earliest of chat rooms where I would, respond to questions. And I'm going to do that again this summer. I'm going to offer advanced courses in Metaphysics 101 from the place I own it. And
you sent me some of your books and some of your unpublished material, your super secret stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to say it was phenomenal. So while we're on the topic, give people the websites and where they can pick up your books.
Thank you for plugging. I'm a starving artist, and something weird is going on out there because I'm not getting the book sales. And Amazon is bootlegging all of my titles, and some of them they're mass marketing. That's Ingram, and that's Lightning Source. And so I'm between a rock and a hard place writing original stuff. I just put up Carillion electrophotography on the work I did to show what Carillion photography was that led a professor of mine, Dr. Bender at Pullman, to do an MRI, to invent the MRI. It's the early stuff. I find magic is the art of changing consciousness at will. Every single one of us does it differently, just like you would do penciling, stippling, crosshatch differently than your wife. And it would be pencil, but it's different because you're you and unique. And that's what magic is. Magic is a going from one altered state to another by direct awareness. And to do that, I had to do my tour with drugs to understand what the distinctions were. And then I started to learn how to release them with imaging in my mind's eye.
I'm glad you said that because I'm constantly bombarded by people that say, oh, well, I can get to these states, et cetera, without that. And I'm like, you don't even have a reference point. That's the problem.
Well, that's why you do.
You have a reference point, though.
Your rituals celebrate the myth. And that's your switch of going from normal to sacred. And my mother was a famous psychic for the Seattle Police Department. And she would have visions without any, right in the middle of dinner, whatever. And that's when I realized she didn't have full control, like Unity churches and the others go for this thing, didn't have control of her own mind in going from one altered state to another. Now, I started 45 years ago training Navy SEALs using biofeedback. I set up a manager foundation, and we invented a low-gain amplifier that would allow to measure brainwaves and heart rate and pulse and respiration and teaching you how to control autonomic functions with just your mind. And you can do that. It's like breathing. There's exercises, and that's what Power Tools was about. For those protocols, I trained SEALs to be supermen. But today, the non-local mind is going to suggest there's 3 books I wrote for the military using video feedback systems called The Diamond Body, Electromagic, and Yogatronics. There's who was it that wrote the Meru project? That was those that are using what it is. It's a visualization in your mind's eye. If you can do a diamond body, and I have the artwork, and visualize it in your mind's eye, what you're doing is setting up a resonant cavity oscillation. And that is what Ezekiel's vision and the throne chariot of God are about. And there's your time machine. And when I say that, time and time travel is a construct. It's not real any more than space and time are real. Mm-hmm. Time is a duration of consciousness. It's not real. You experience it differently under different drugs. What you want to do is be able to do that at will. And that's done with breath control. I taught SEALs how to change their perception of time using breath control, and their martial arts became paranormal because you had the precision of being able to do that. We went into this altered state and could now do Tai Chi, experience it as Tai Chi, and it was actually Hangar. And I have been doing this a long time. I've done my tour, and now I'm learning how to release these neurotransmitters without having to do drugs.
You know, there is a practice that China was oppressing people over. I forgot what it was, but I remember I see them protesting.
Falun Gong.
Yes. Any thoughts on that?
On
Falun Gong.
Ding Dong, or like Hostess Ding Dongs with sugar? I'm kidding. what did you call it? Ding Dong?
Can you say it again?
Falun Gong. Falun
Gong. It's apparently
alchemy. The idea, there's weapons out there that are different than my synthetic telepathy and voice to skull. There's stuff out of Cuba now. Stuff. The French have infrasound that sets up standing waves on your heart, gives you a heart attack.
Ooh.
Yeah, it requires a lot of power because it's low amplitude. I mean, low bandwidth frequency, 10 hertz. You put a 10 hertz wah in the air, and it'll set up a standing wave on your heart and get you in ventricular fibrillation, just like that. Nice weapon. That takes the enemy out without taking out their weapons. And then you have more weapons, and the enemy is money's for nothing, and the chicks are free. I found that there's new concepts in ritual that I'm writing about, and that's called pathworking. This is how you change the movie. The book I'm writing right now that you're going to like is called The Magical and Ritual Use of Metaphor, or Typal Gods in Daily Living. The Greek saw that there were 22 stories in the big city. And you are either possessed, which is one story, or you're complex, multiple stories. And all of you have probably 7 or 8 different things going on, drama. And what you're trying to do with tarot is identify what stories are, because each one has an ending, and you may not want to have that ending. Mm-hmm. That's why you change that story of this story rather than these.
It's very true.
Complex, okay. So pathworking is when you've identified psyche at the well of souls, what you do next, so that Persephone doesn't have to return to Hades. And that's called path working. And it's done as ritual, which celebrates the myth. And this will be the new physics and where we're going. And it actually is an amalgam between religion and science, neither of which have the answer, and both which change every 20 years. Because physics is starts physics, you have some truths and definitions before you even get into the laws. And to think there's going to be a toe, the theory of everything, good luck with that. Because the only thing I have seen consistent in science is Maxwell's right-hand rule of thumb, hitchhiking out of here. Mm-hmm. That's it. I haven't seen anything last longer. Quantum mechanics is no longer, it's about space and time. They're not real, they're constructs. So, assumed truth. What is an assumed truth? Well, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. We now know that isn't true. We have wormholes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so if space is curved, just using simple tensor math, I can prove the Earth's flat. Now, is it flat or round? And the correct answer is yes. Because when you look at it this way, you have these realities available. And when you look at it that way, you have those realities.
This is what I have found in my journey as well, Rick, is that it's all dependent on the observer. If you look at it from one direction, that's how a hologram works. A hologram is a 3D projection on a 2D surface. So, of course, some people are going to see the illusion, others are going to see the surface.
It's n dimensions of information in n minus 1 dimensions. Physical plane is IQ, emotional plane, how you feel about the physical plane. It's more detailed. And so it's EQ. Why we worship women. Sorry. Well, it's a metaphor.
Well, yeah, right, but the feminine is where all life comes from.
That's
I mean,
right.
Benny,
right behind Cherie is the statue of Isis, and that's actually the vagina with the, the crown, et cetera, et cetera. It's because that's where life comes from.
Yeah. What is that? Shellfish that you eat, an oyster. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. Actually, when
I took Cherie for oysters the first time the other day. She's never had them. She hated them.
It's all metaphor. It's not called simplistic. What is that? Voodoo.
But you have to open it up gently and then take the pearl.
Right. Good luck with it. I can say this about that. The reason the Masonic secret, sex magic, is the thought that occurs at the moment of climax. Mm-hmm. Why? Because you're punctuating it with emotion. You're using what your brain doesn't use symbols. Elephants flying, Dumbo. It's the feeling that is important. And that's what you're recording, not what happened in your dream, how you felt about it.
Right.
Oh, that is interesting because I've always thought of imaging as projecting the image into time-space in order to manifest it. Now you bring a whole other dimension to the concept.
Next level of information is what it is. A holographic system is not space and time. It's information and resolution of information, like fractal. With a Mandelbrot, Julia, or May pattern, or wang, wang, wang. And if it's this size, the next size is that size. If it's smaller, this size, there's a relationship of the one to the next. I chose the hierarchy by using Leary's neurologic circuits, which I found to be brilliant in terms of hierarchies. And all of my books now, magic, will use that codex, as a metaphor, like Crowley used Liber, books Liber 7, or whatever. And so you know where it belongs in the realm of ontology. It belongs here, not over there. And when you do path working is the holistic Kabbalah. I have written 12 manuscripts ready to go to work, and starting with Melkuth, the earth. And I've been doing this a long time, and I'm going to suggest that the next time you do drugs, what you do, before you even do it, you ceremony and do a closing ritual, a circle of protection. Trust me. Watch what happens next. And you must do that in order to assimilate the experience. Otherwise, look at Larry's book. There are 4 reasons he gives for getting high. And the Buddhists, only one of them is for recreation and escape.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's that's what you do when you're 15 years old.
Right.
But had I had somebody, a teacher or somebody like that, telling me you can use all this with intention,
Right.
I wouldn't have wasted all of those years. I mean, we were just going to raves and partying and doing all that. Now we're doing it with intention. Let me ask you this real quick before we get too far off. So you talk about sacred spaces during these too far off.
Gotcha, man.
I love it.
I have been there and done that.
You're a man after my own heart.
He's our favorite guest.
So we noticed we got these 2 kittens.
Yes.
2 black kittens, one fluffy and one not fluffy. We named them Sekhmet and Bastet. And we did LSD and Molly the other day, and they both came up to us, and they sat there.
We
and
both saw this.
They started purring. Their eyes started going in 360 degrees. This little thing popped out of their head. It
And
almost
started
had like a
spinning
little
around.
bell, and it seemed like they were creating some kind of space or field and projecting the experience further and further and further. It was amazing. Like, I don't know what these little creatures are, but
Really
they are
worried about
definitely
you.
connected to the psychedelic experience.
I'm really worried about you, man. Getting your cat high. That's nuts, man.
We both saw it. We both saw it at the same time.
Yeah. That's why we like animals. They're closer to spirit. Why we are all fucked up is because look at the way we're birthed. Like, I came out of the womb. The first thing that happened to me, somebody hit me. And then they took me off to be fingerprinted before I could even meet mom. And then somebody chopped my dick off. Now, you don't think that's not going to have trauma?
Pretty much.
Well, circumcision. I mean, get a grip.
Right.
You don't remember? Oh, you don't remember any of this.
Oh, boy.
Why? But wounds are what make you different than me. These are tools because, like, let me give you an example. When I get angry, what a perfect energy to wash a floor.
Yeah.
I mean, you use this in right action. Now you have. That is what magic is.
Well, that's a black magic intention. We had a black magician on the show a while back, and he says if you want to really,
because that's where black and white come from.
That's true. That's true. But you know what's funny is he told me when he wants somebody killed, he'll call upon Michael, Angel Michael.
Archangel Michael.
Yeah. Michael, yeah. And he said, I don't call upon a demon, I call upon an angel. Those are the ones that can get shit done.
Those are the real bad guys.
I want to say thank you to Jay real quick, sending in a donation.
Aw,
you
thank
rock,
you.
Jay. Thank you. But your thoughts, Rick?
Well, my magic is not about religion. And spirituality is the only thing worth being driven over by a truck. So, the only time I do magic is for spiritual advancement and becoming a better human being. I don't do it to try to control other people or situations because guess what? Control is a fantasy.
It comes back to you, yeah.
No, what you're doing this for is to become more aware.
Right.
That is a tool that leads you to become me. And I have done this since 1964 is when I took my first hit of LSD. How about you? And let me tell you, I was up at Deception Pass looking down 2,000 feet into the water, Puget Sound, boiling dark colors. And Larry leaned over and he said, wouldn't it be neat to jump? And what happened next was that I discovered all this Huxley's doors of perception, and all these different doors saying, "Oh no, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to go there." And I watched all of that and realized that inner space is even more vast than outer space.
I think outer space is a complete hoax and illusion. It's all inner space.
We're living in a simulation.
All inner space. Yeah.
Yeah, and what you've got now is a journey where you never get there. It is a process, and it's about the journey. Not Simon says you can go halfway to the door. You never make it there, but you get close, and as you get closer, that's where knowledge becomes wisdom. And that's just after self-realization or Tippereth. It's called Doth. It's in the middle of the Sephirah. It's a 10th sphere. It's hidden. And it's always drawn on charts as a little dot. It isn't real. And it's a temporary place. Tippereth is where you're going. You got Kether is where you're going. God, and that's High Priestess. And the path working that I'm doing is that the two outer paths that go to God are the hermit and the lovers. That means you do it androgynously, or you have a reflected mate.
Did you? I was looking at the chat as you were putting up the signs, the hand signs. Were you doing a triangle
Yes,
upwards and downwards? The Merkaba, the union of the male and female. Yeah. Okay.
The path that crosses those two crosses right through Doth and the Sea of Karanjan, which is chaos, and between Christ consciousness and Tippereth. And by the way, that's what this is. You should read that. Yeah. That's our. Let's see. I got to do it over this way.
There you go. Someone actually asked that in the chat room, whether you were wearing that hat with intention or if it was something you wear all the time.
It's my logo, just like
just like Chris with his black shirt.
Well, what's funny is people in the chat were asking earlier, what's with the red hat? And I'm like, you guys got to look out for the white hats. Those are the ones you got to be familiar with.
This is from Nepal. It is a meditation cap. Usually they put sacred geometry on it, I don't know. And they will, to focus for meditation, channeling in. And my buddies, the Navy SEALs, because Navy Intel put up my logo on there because I was team leader. I have a team leader and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, but Navy intelligence is a club you never get out of. It's kind of like, it's not Navy.
And it's not intelligence either.
Well, Army.
I'm just busting your balls, Rick.
That's the guy that stares at goats and tries to run through. Actually, the wrong goat died 10 years later. And I have to tell you, nobody gets it like the Navy. That's why I worked for Old Man Pond, and he reported directly to Rockefeller. And I was I have seen things, done things that I had no clue on. Everybody said it's military. I've been at the Pentagon, and I actually watched Flores trade ordnance. It's not about the military. It's these little groups that have no accountability. And you watch this movie, what is it called? Designated Survivor. You'll get the full impact. Within the government, there are little cults that are trying to change everything. And that's the creepy part. You should never know who it is. And that's what rituals are about. And when my parents, when I grew up, I was a little kid, they were atheists. And they sent me to Missouri Synod Catechism to armor me for high school. And I got that message. And so what happened next was that when I came out of grad school and I got assaulted by lodges, same thing, only different, I had to armor up myself, and I became a scholar in magic. And now I am understanding it to a place where I can use it. And drugs are a stepping stone to learning how to control your own mind. That's the purpose of meditation. There are shortcuts, like drugs, brain drivers, things like that. Let me tell you, when you get to be my age, now not only can I bring my heart rate down, allotropic medicine suggests that we're all the same, and one size fits all. And what is healthy for one person is not.
That's true, but that's what I was getting at earlier, Rick, when I was saying that I can, by using these kind of psychedelic tools, you can get a better hold of your consciousness.
What you're doing is
Dennis McKenna. Well, let me say this real quick. Dennis McKenna was on our show, and he said that he went down to the Amazon, and the guy put scopolamine in the ayahuasca brew, and he said, I recognize this as scopolamine. So on that same note, if you have experience in these states, when they throw something at you like that, you can pretty much navigate through it because you're like, I've got control of my consciousness.
You haven't yet navigated because you're still here.
Well, I mean, navigate through the scopolamine
That's
experience,
the
or
Matrix.
something like that when they're throwing different things at you. So, for example, if something malfunctioned right now in my brain and I started hallucinating something, I would be able to distinguish the difference between a hallucination and what's in this physical space because I've done it 1,000 times before.
Really?
Yes,
Watch this. Ah, there it is.
there
And you didn't even see it.
I saw it. All of this is an illusion. The
No,
whole fucking
because you knew
thing.
it. The idea is that imagination is actually the reality of everything. And if it's an unruly child, it's everywhere. Paranoia will destroy you. Is this my house burning down? It's a type of control of learning how to navigate internal landscape. And once you do that, now you can start changing the outer world. It's absolutely exciting for me. I'm learning how to release, I get that chill anytime I want to. You can do that. You can, with your mind's eye, you can make that happen. Practice that for a little while. Keep a diary on how you did it and what happens for 2 months. And watch what happens next. That's where I would like to go. And once I've done that, then it's the blue light because I don't need this tunnel anymore. It's not real. This is not real. We are in a time warp kind of thing. I love, let's do the time warp again.
Well, this gets into a question from the chat from earlier. Mr. Gort said, Sonia Barrett, well, that was one of our guests a few weeks ago, said this is just a game, that it is not something to escape. Do you believe that this is a matrix that we need to escape from, or just a game that we're playing?
Yes.
Yes, to both? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a choice at the moment of death. That's the Bordeaux it all. It talks about the tunnel of light that Kubler-Ross and others talk about. And it talks about the blue light, and you have a choice. And you always, for the first 100,000 times, choose to be with your friends and husband again.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they get you.
That's how they get
That's
you.
how they get you. They'll manifest
No, that's
Jesus,
Debbie
or they'll
Harry
manifest
and the man from Mars.
your family or whatever, and say, "Come into the light. It's fine. You're gonna love it here. It's gonna be huge." And then, boom, you are sucked from all your experiences, thrown back into the wheel of reincarnation to do it all over again, so you can be harvested once again of your life energy.
Come on in. The water's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, but somehow getting off the wheel, you merge back with the Lord. Now, that's what Buddhists are doing. That's different.
That whole idea of the Lord, Rick, it's just giving me chills.
Well,
not in a good way.
That will be Yankee for you, probably. I don't know, man. There's a lot of them out there. Actually, there's a pantheon of them. Each one has a different story.
I think they're all right here, though. It's all different parts of our own consciousness.
Yeah.
It was, in fact, the Greeks' form of technology. Psychology was a different pantheon. And that's how they were, Homer and others, that was their technology, was looking at these different stories and the myth behind it. And the purpose of ritual is to celebrate that myth. And that's Jungian and James Hillman. And what I did, I studied Crowley. Crowley was a pretty good magician compared to other centuries. But a teacher can only take you as far as they themselves have gone. And Crowley died as a drug addict in Hastings, just like Tombstone. We don't know about certain kinds of things in our knowledge base, like what addiction might imply.
Well, that's true, but that's why you don't do the drugs that you get addicted to.
Right.
You do LSD, Molly, things like that. I mean, if you have an addictive personality, then Molly I would stay away from, because that can, but
okay, I'm gonna say
most
something.
people, they take Molly and then they're like, I don't want to do it again for at least a couple of weeks. So
The difference between addiction and a tool is a very fine line of gray.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're trying to discover.
I found that I have to sometimes convince myself to take the psychedelic experience, and my brain will automatically start to try.
ego.
Well, the ego
I
will
never had any
automatically try to
problem at all when they had
talk
it
myself
opposite.
out of it. Going, you
I
know what?
just
You got
couldn't
shit
get
to
my
do
brain
tomorrow.
on it.
You got this and that going on. We'll do it next weekend, et cetera, et cetera. Then weeks go by, and I'm like, all right, I have to go to the realm. And every time I do it, I come back and go, why didn't I do this sooner? But
Do you keep a diary of what happened?
the show.
Yeah, the show is our diary.
No. I'm going to recommend you start your magical memory.
Okay.
Because it's a snapshot of that moment. Today you've changed. And what you do is you go back and look at the snapshot, and it brings you back. That's your time machine.
That's a good point, because I used to write articles right after the experiences, and I'd go back and read the articles. It would take me back. Now what we do is we turn on the mics and just start talking. I mean, we've done several shows coming down off of psychedelics.
Like while our eyes are still
We're the real
dilated
deal
and
over here.
everything.
We don't fuck around.
Hey, I'm going to recommend Gabriel Roth in terms of the concepts of dance. It's a part of your ritual. And it's freeform. You see, there was Kate Bush before her and Kenneth Anger before her, Kate Bush. These are systems of tried and true by people. Gabriel Roth, look her up, find out about her dance concept, and I would integrate that into your ritual when you do these drugs, and then record what happened and your feelings of what you emerged from that. I think you're going to find some very rewarding things. I did that in the 70s, and now I'm a grumpy old man. I don't need drugs anymore. I can go anywhere and see you. Oh, how do they put it in The Prisoner? Oh, yes. Be seeing you. Yeah, that's it. It's a type of mindset. Once you do that, now you're not doing ayahuasca. And by the way, FYI, ayahuasca's got a problem because when Daime Church is arguing with that other religious cult on who's got the right formula, how spiritual can that be?
No, that's true. But
That
you know,
is true.
we make ours with mimosa or acacia confucia, Syrian rue. Sometimes we'll throw in a little bit of ayahuasca
Syrian rue
vine.
is different.
But we do the Egyptian version.
We do the Egyptian version with acacia. Yeah.
Listen to this, Rick. In the sarcophagus, in the sarcophagus of the King's Chamber
that I sent you today on how to make it.
I'll check it out. But check this out. In the sarcophagus of the King's Chamber, I took a brew made of 400 grams of mimosa. I downed it myself in two different drinks because I figured, you know what? It's a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah,
I'm there. I better overshoot than undershoot.
Like God sort of. Listen, man, I could show you. Where are you guys? You're up in Spokane.
We're in Spokane.
Yeah.
The most boring city in the United States of America.
Hey, I went to Pullman and I walked all of those hills, so I've been there, done that. You should come down to visit for a minute. Do a podcast down here.
We need to come in. We need to move to LA. I mean, that's on the agenda for sure.
The one they used in the movie for Doctor Strange, because I am Doctor Strange. I actually am. I'm actually. It's just like in the comic book. When I come in to the comic conventions with my 280Z, the kids love it because what they're seeking now is real people, real things, not superheroes. They want they want a role model, and that's the part with the ones. You want to see my broken heart here, my tooth gone. Listen, I have my arms. One arm is less than the other one by 3. There's no bone on it. It's bionic. I can't pick my nose. How's that for a metaphor? Did you get all of that? I am not bionic. I am a Kmart markdown special.
Yep.
I make a lot of noise when I go through airports. That's why they do the sound things now, because I got too much titanium in my body. I have it in every limb. And each story that goes behind each one of those. And that's where you're going to be at the end of the day, like me. Worn out, spindle, mutilated, and otherwise folded into.
I don't think Chris will ever be worn out.
No.
Oh, and by the way, this is my great grandfather's, and it's called the Eye of Agamotto.
Oh, can you hold it up just a little bit more?
I'm going to try to get it right here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, that is nice.
That's interesting.
You'll notice the symbol.
Male, female.
Culminating towards judgment. Oh, by the way, there's stuff on the backside too. Yeah, just like in the movies. I've been wearing this for more than 50 years.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool.
That is really cool.
Oh, no. Part and parcel of the package and why we do what we do. And the distinction between intent and purpose is where an AI can't go. That's because when you're doing purpose, not intent, when you're doing purpose, why you're here, you're not, how did Crowley put it? None shall say nay. You're invisible.
It is funny you say that, Rick, because when we went to Egypt, we didn't know what we were going to do there. We knew that we needed to do some kind of ritual while we were there. We had no idea how anything was going to happen, but we knew this. We knew that there was information that we could get that is outside of the view of AI, because you need the human spirit or the consciousness in order to access it. And we hid this information where the AI sees stones, we can feel those stones and pull information out because the AI doesn't have those feelings.
Its intent is when you're coming from a place of wounding. Purpose is when you use it as a tool, a blessing, and it's glass half full. That was how I trained SEALs, and that's what made that mythology invincible. Today they're different. They're drill and they've got, I don't know, squads. Our unit 1, SEAL Team 1, was only 8 members, and each one spoke at least 4 languages. Redundancy is the other part of it. So I cover each other, and who's going to be first, because I'm on second. Yeah, baseball. It's right. It's a metaphor. Sleight of hand and sleight of mind. The idea of controlling the mind so that it doesn't wander, focus it. And that's why all your saints in history have stressed the importance of meditation, training the mind. Now, there are shortcuts. Grandma's house. With them are big bad wolves. And that's the part I'm now discovering myself is there'll be cow pies over there. You don't want to go over there. And there'll be a mushroom growing out of it for sure. But, you want to be real careful. What is happening in medicine, psychedelic mushrooms, is that they're now suggesting that your mind, placebo, is more than 10%. You heal yourself on a spiritual level, and it proliferates down to the physical. And that part is where the placebo is 10%, and it's now 60% where you can use it. And your CBDs are the same thing. They're not an opiate, and yet they must have THC to activate them. That's the deal there. And it isn't the CBDs, it's the blend of the two. And that's
yes and no. I mean, we have introduced the ayahuasca vine into it, and the extract of both working together has worked phenomenal for people. I was doing deadlifts at the gym. I jacked up my knee.
Creepy, man.
It's you know where I got the recipe from? The ayahuasca realm.
Yep.
I was in the ayahuasca realm asking how can I help Cherie, and I got the whole recipe, which was already inside of me, brought it out, put it together, gave it to Cherie. She's like, oh my God, this is incredible. After about a week using it, and then we put it out there, and we're just getting, like, people...
Try that formula that I gave you. It doesn't have... I'm Tantra. I changed my name. Ghost wrote that. That's like the anarchist cookbook where I wrote the early books on drugs and how to make it with crabgrass, which is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Phalaris is easy. You can make your own. and not have a laboratory. And when I tell you that, now that's the distinction between a trophy hunter and someone that's doing survival. And being able to make your own brew, that's the bottom line. And once you do that, it's like, having to go through the karma of butchering a cow to eat that steak.
Well, that's what I noticed is that the most powerful experiences are when we make the brew. And we've urged people to make it on their own instead of going to a shaman and this and that. Because number one, you know exactly what's in it. You're not going to get scopolamine. You're not going to get any kind of garbage like that. You know exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
My teacher was Bill Osley. He invited me to make LSD 25, and then we did LSD 35. And they're different. And the toxins, the peak experiences. Wait. You're
talking about making LSD from crabgrass or ayahuasca or
no,
DMT? DMT. Okay, DMT extract. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, I didn't know you can make LSD. You know what I'd like? I probably shouldn't say this on air, but I'd like a nice recipe for Molly.
Off air. You can give that to us off air.
A magical and ritual use of herbs. A magical ritual use of aphrodisiacs, magical and ritual use of perfumes. And now I'm writing magical and ritual use of metaphor. Now I'm a physicist that's crossing over to the other side. And let me tell you, it's happening in all the universities interested in this area, because now they're discovering that, the chronic disorders like stress disorder from trauma, Vietnam, can be dealt with just your mind. And that's where it all happens. Controlling and directing the mind. Once you learn how to do that, there's no need to come back here. That's how you get out of the matrix.
That's a great point. We can talk about that on the other side. We'll take a quick break. And we've got some questions, too, from the chat room that we want to go over.
Running out of gas. I'm good.
The last couple segments, yeah.
Can we do maybe another 30 minutes?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
20 minutes? Okay.
No problem. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back in just a few moments. Let me pull up a quick break clip here. Should have had all this together.
I'm going to check on the babies, too.
Oh, you're going to check on the babies?
Yeah.
Are you going to bring them out so everybody can see them?
Maybe. If they're not asleep.
They have a cat house.
In my office.
In her office. And they sit and look out the window.
Uh-huh. They
cute.
love it.
Yeah. Oh, what did I do with all these clips? All right, here we go.
We'll be right back.
All the conflict and strife throughout history, all the fear and hatred, serve but one purpose: to keep my master's wheel turning. The coin is still turning. All souls were prisoners, trapped in the pointless round of existence, leading distracted, blunted lives until death returned them, always in ignorance, to the wheel. But what hope had there been?
There is no escape.
It was then I knew what I had to do. I alone could end this. And it was then I saw.
So, I am revealed to you at last.
What in hell?
I am the origin of life, the devourer of death. I am the hub of the wheel, the purifying cycle to which all souls must be drawn. You would be wise to heed me.
Your words are hardening. For you would not fear us unless we could truly do you harm.
No! You are nothing.
False god. This is the end. The final turn of your wheel.
Fellow traveler, the cries of the mistress speak again. Bidding organic consciousness a welcome to the House of Light. The great institution of materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned, like a monster destroying its creator. Science battles itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only your consciousness knows the true path. You, the illuminated, can carry the understanding upwards towards the light. Only your consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect measure, be born again, through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as you are sublimely raised, beyond the veil.
All right, we are back, and we'll be rejoined by Richard Allen Miller here in just a few moments. We have some questions we're going to go through, and we're going to try to make it quick.
And they keep dropping more and more questions. I think our listeners want Richard Allen Miller to stay with us an extra hour.
Yes.
Due to how many questions they're throwing at us right now.
But I don't think he can do
I don't
that.
think he can, but we're going to try to keep him as long as possible.
Let's get to the
Come
best.
back, just like a
All right. Excellent. So we'll get to the questions here. Jackie Cat asked, would you please elaborate on on your Curlian photography project?
It's an old book. Curlian photography is when it was a Russian thing, that when they put electrostatic field, auras appeared. And when you take a leaf, you cut a piece away from it, the aura will still remain. How does that work? And what I did was the physics of it. And I wrote that paper and presented it in New York in 1970. It's where I met Edgar Mitchell, to do the ESP things at Mission Control, 1971. And the Curlian electrophotography is a secondary emission of electrons. You have your Upperton glands and your secreting oils around your body. Cats, dogs smell that, and they can smell the cancer. And so the idea was we wanted a way to be able to do a non-invasive medical examination of internal state functions. And Curlian photography was the lead to MRI. And I did that in 1970. And basically, I wrote another paper, Holographic Concept of Reality. It's in that. And those two papers are what allowed me to become MRU, Dr. Carl Schleicher, in 1974. And that Curlian electrophotography was published by MRU. It's an MRU document, very rare, that was the early technologies like Secret Life of Plants and Flanagan sharpening razor blades, in the pyramids, that kind of thing.
You know what, Rick? You never gave us your websites earlier.
Oh, my website, richardallenmiller.com.
Excellent. We'll post it in the description.
Thank you. Yeah, I could use all the book sales. If you buy my books, I'll be good to go. I have 40 manuscripts right now ready for press, and I don't have the money to publish them.
Oh, and
Haska sent a donation, so I wanted to say thank you to Haska.
I'm doing ebooks so I can jumpstart it. That's what I'm doing. And I've got 3 mushroom books going up in the next couple of days. One's on psychedelics. And let me show you what I got here. I'll get this. Oh, yeah, you're going to like this one. You see my magical mushroom handbook that I did for High Times. Well, then we have a little bunch of photographs. Yeah, with how to identify them. And I'm going to put that in a book, making that available.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
And how to grow them indoors.
Ooh.
We tried to grow some.
Because did you know this? Now listen carefully. This is important. When I wrote Magical and Ritual Use of Herbs, I assigned rituals to all of those herbs. And those 28 herbs that I wrote it on kept them out of the Uniform Controlled Substance Act because they became sacraments.
Nice.
Mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms. It is not illegal to have them. It is not illegal to eat them or grow them. It is illegal to sell them, and it is illegal to extract the chemistry. And it turns out they have put a lot of people in prison for having them, possession, that kind of thing. You can fight that because they were sacraments. And that's why I wrote that book in 1974.
Here's a funny story to share with you. So when Cherie and I first met, she came over. She lived about 3 hours away. She found these big syringes in my refrigerator. They were mushroom spores. But she thought I was a serial killer or something. She had never seen
I watched Dexter and I thought,
We're putting ours in chocolate. There's a gold one for 2 people, and then there's a yellow one for microdosing. Psychedelic mushroom is simple, and that's one of the books I'm going to put up on the website as an ebook, how to grow them indoors. And what you do is that if you have a block and you turn it, you roll 4 times before you throw the block away and get a new block. You need a refrigerator and darkness. Growing them in your attic.
Yeah, we tried to grow them, and all the jars turned black.
Yeah.
And it's such
contamination.
Oh man, it's such a disappointment because you have to wait a few weeks for them to see what's going to happen to them. When they turn black, that's it. You can't do anything with them.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things you can do with the black.
Really?
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah, the Germans call it blick.
I did not know that. I thought they were contaminated and we needed to throw them out because it was mold or something like that.
No, there's other things going on. Yes, they're growing other things in there besides the mycelium. And actually, the mushroom is the fruiting cap, and it is mycelium and the fruiting cap and the broth. All 3 have different chemistries, and the combination.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
that's what I did, chemistry.
Next question. Duck Sauce asked, ask him if he knows anything about the Montauk Project, as in Montauk, Long Island.
Yeah, that was Dr. Carl Schleicher. I was Northwest Regional Director, which means I did everything on the West Coast. Dr. Wilbur Franklin did all the things in the Midwest. And Smoking Man, Dr. Carl Schleicher did the Montauk Project, which was East Coast. That was a project for trying to do stealth or radar defense, invisible to radar. And what happened is something else happened.
What happened?
You'll have to wait. You'll have to wait for that one.
Okay.
I don't know. It's kind of like something that we don't yet truly grasp, like a magnetic monopole. We have one now, but the physics is a little difficult to try to explain what's really going on because we don't really know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's that's what I did for the military. I caught a lot of flies. My mouth open in disbelief. That's it, man.
You were right on the edge there.
Well, why do you think I went into magic? I mean, get a grip. Or what? Most physicists were incapable of even dealing with this kind of shit.
Right.
Finding severed head in the Florida Everglades. They before she's dead in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you do is start forensics. Who did it and how did they identify?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that da 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 da. There's all kinds of isolation of the variables, not knowing what ESP really is. Well, I have written that because I now know what it is, and it's instinct, gut. It's not your upper brain. This brain is here to make all your beliefs true. I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't believed it. It filters purposefully to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions, Sheree?
Yes, we do. Let's move on to the next question. The violet and ask him about and this is from Teresa. Ask him about the violet and gold light. Also, wheels that spin one way, then the other.
The wheels within wheels.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not
Rick,
familiar
so
with that.
You're not either.
Okay.
What I will do. That's probably Eastern Hindu, coming out of Madame Blavatsky, Theosophic, and the different chakras signed. And those were the appendices from the voice of the silence. And in the voice of the silence, as a little sidebite, you can tell what level of spirituality you're at by what sounds you hear in your right ear. And do you hear music now? Right.
No.
Yeah, everybody does. They filter it, but you do hear it.
You know what's funny? We were in Colorado and we were living right next to Lockheed Martin. We didn't know. We always have a tendency to gravitate towards military bases. I have no freaking idea.
For some
and
reason.
as we were driving around, I swear I would hear music coming out of the fillings of my teeth.
Yep.
Well, the voice of the silence is the lost chord, what Terence McKenna called zero-point energy, hydrogen molecule, soul of the universe, the lost chord. And the highest one is bagpipes, and I'm hearing them right this moment. Now that's the level I've gotten to, and it's a kind of a roadmap, if you would, like the Kabbalah. You want to know where you are spiritually. I'm over here on the left side of Chicago and Spook Central. That's what it's about, is trying to understand where you are with yourself. And most people don't have a clue what that meant. But that's where the journey is actually about, because that is the distinction between intent and purpose. Your wounds that you have received actually become blessings and tools in a toolbox. And that's why Shree can do things you can't.
Duck Sauce in the chat, he mentioned that in Montauk, I don't know anything about this, but they were using MDMA for teleportation and time travel.
Well, Shulgin and the old man were around then, but Montauk was about microwaves. And
right.
Yeah. And I can tell you something else happened, and Dr. Carl Schleicher was the one that did that. I wasn't present. I did Antarctica. I did da-da-da-da-da. I did things. But I didn't do that one. I did other things. I went into the territories up above Canada for UFO fragments. I actually had a UFO fragment that I did studies on. I fired a 50 caliber cannon at it and then looked at it with an electron microscope looking for lattice damage. And we have that technology now. It's called fullerenes. It's 100 times stronger than diamond. And it was electrophoretic, like a foil.
Interesting.
And it had memory, would go back into its original shape.
I'm on the topic of psychedelics for a second. I speculate that these chemicals actually put you in a different frequency, and depending on the tool is the different type of frequency. For instance, Molly, which isn't really a psychedelic, it's more of an empathogen. But still, when we mixed it with the LSD, oh my God, forget about it. But I discounted all those tools at first, thinking, well, the synthetics don't have any they don't have any use in any of this. It's all about plants, et cetera, et cetera. But when I graduated from the plants, I went back to revisit some of the other chemicals and realized, whoa, this is actually putting you in a different frequency state.
Okay,
any thoughts on that?
I have something to say about that. The Germans, when they started doing the chemistries of plants, talked about standardized extract, where you had targeted chemistry, cordyceptin, one target, going for that polysaccharide.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that full spectrum, like when you use aspen, leaf and bark to make an aspirin, acetylsalicylic acid, it has other compounds in it that are unrelated that act as buffers. And I have found that doing native plants as a full spectrum rather than extracting the chemistry out like the Nazis did, Germans.
Totally different.
Well, it is, because you have to take massive doses of that, whereas in natural form, aspen leaf. Christ, did you know that aspen is the second and fourth largest entity on Earth? The mushroom, the Rickest mushroom, is the largest entity, and it's located in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. And then a second one is up in BC, Canada. It's a single entity, and the aspen groves are single entity as well.
I didn't know that, but I mean, I'm relating it to, of course, the ayahuasca experience versus extracted DMT. Because on extracted DMT, it seems to be missing something. With ayahuasca, there seems to be more of a full spectrum, as you mentioned, of the experience.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, but there's also different kinds of DMT. There's N, N hyphen.
Mm-hmm.
There's 5-alpha.
Yep.
Okay, there's all kinds of different dimethyltryptamine.
What was Rick using? Because you mentioned NN-DMT is not the same as what Rick was using. All we've used is NN-DMT. We've never used 5-methoxy.
I've never used 5-methoxy, no.
We were using N, N hyphen when we were studying telepathy.
Oh no. When I say Rick, I mean Rick Strassman.
Yeah, Strassman was using, I think, 5-alpha. It's a different thing that Blake developed out of Berkeley years ago. You smoke it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you hit peak experience within 10 seconds. In the next 20 hours, next 3 hours seem like 20. And there's some creepy things that happen in between.
Yeah, I read his book, and people were getting raped by reptilian alligators and things like that. And I'm like, well, of course, setting, you're doing it in a freaking hospital.
Right.
It's the worst possible freaking setting in the world.
No wonder some guy was having visions of being raped by alligators. I mean, that makes complete sense to me that they would have that experience in a hospital.
Raptors is what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, next question.
Yes, next question.
And I'm gonna pass out here shortly.
Okay, all right.
Always good.
So, I'm just gonna go to a really interesting one.
Yeah, let's go to one final question.
One final question. How does one experience the blue light? This is from Starchild.
Good luck with that. I don't know because I haven't done it. I'm still just like Richard Albert.
There are things we don't know yet.
That is the realest answer that I've ever heard on this show from a guest.
Yes.
Well done.
Well done. We love you, Rick.
That's what we aspire toward.
Mm-hmm.
But stay tuned. Same bat channel.
Awesome. Your websites one more time, please.
Yeah. I love my comics, man. I do.
Well, we love you, Rick. We love having you on. Give us your websites one more time.
I'm richardallenmiller.com. And if you want to buy my books, I have written a lot of books. I have a 9-volume encyclopedia on alternative agriculture. I'm MacGyver for the military. That's what I do. I go out in the woods and get creepy. Matt Stein was my partner when we were doing urban survival skill workshops. Matt died this Christmas. Did you know that?
Oh, no, we didn't hear that.
Yeah, he was the one that he didn't, he could be the last man standing. And he had an aortic embolism. He died. He was climbing a mountain.
A friend of mine
Everybody
just died of a heart attack. 71 years old. You would never imagine this guy.
No,
71.
he looked 50.
He looked 50. He was running around like 50. Just all of a sudden one day, poof, heart attack.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's the way to go,
That's
though.
why-
Completely active, and then you're
Why
gone.
Every moment is your last.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You live for the moment, trying to make it sacred. And if you do the rituals, like I'm going to suggest, and I have written books on magic, and you can turn into a horrible, grumpy old man like me.
Nah. People are saying in the chat they want to adopt you as their grandfather. So apparently you're not that grumpy.
Take me down to the river.
Love you, Rick.
Nice
Thank you
talking
for
with you.
joining us, and let's do it again very soon.
Yeah.
All right. Take
Love
care.
you, Rick. Bye.
Yeah, but
Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Allen Miller.
Always so much fun.
Yeah, fun guy
Always.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. He reminds me a lot of me.
Yeah. Yes. An older version of you.
Yes, and we even kind of look alike, like same facial structure,
yeah.
same hair. We both wear black T-shirts all the time.
Maybe he's a relative. You know, he's at least part of our soul family. I would agree with that. And what he said at the very end was very, very true. That's why Chris's his calling card, I guess you could say, his motto for the end of the show is always kiss the one you love right now, because you never know when the last time's going to be, because you do have to live your life as if every single moment is your last, as if every day when you wake up in the morning, it might be your last day. What if it was your last day? You know, I thought about that the other day and thought, oh my God, you know, I've been a complete shit today. And what if, you know, something happened to Chris? You know, what if he died suddenly, or what if I died suddenly? Would I want this to be the last time that I spoke to him? You know, and
Oracle
it's
Eyes
true, though.
is in the chat. She just sent another donation.
Aw, thank you, Oracle Eyes.
Yes, and we've got the thing on the way for you
Yes.
too. So we finally got the international labels,
Yes, we
and
did.
everything should go swimmingly now. So thank you for your patience on that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you for the love and the donation too.
Yes, absolutely. And we love you guys, and we love Rick, and it's nothing but love for everybody over here.
Yes. Are
On
there any
that
more
note,
questions?
Not for us. No.
What are we, chopped liver over here?
I think someone
People want to call in, but I don't think I want the show to go on as long as that. And callers it always turns into like a 6-hour show when we do that.
Right.
But we will have to do an open line show coming up.
Let's do an open line show maybe next week or the week after.
Yeah.
We definitely need to do an open line show here in the future. My Judy said Bob Lazar on Joe Rogan mentioned technology coming from Zeta Reticuli, AI in the form of Greys having contacted humans with technology to facilitate harvest in the future.
You know, Bob Lazar is an interesting character. He was really big in the UFO scene back in the 80s and the 90s. He was supposedly back engineering UFOs. The problem is they can't find any record or connection to Area 51 or government, military, or something like that. And I think they found a small connection where he was like a clerk or something like that. But then his side of the story is, well, he, of course, the government would erase all those records, et cetera, et cetera. He had an interesting compound that he actually started a business with, and that's why he dropped off the UFO scene. I forget what the compound was, but it was supposedly some kind of extraterrestrial chemical or something like that. I don't know what to think of Bob Lazar, but it's very interesting that he's talking about the harvest, because, the harvest has come up in our experiences as well, so I will have to check that out. I actually saw somebody posting that on Facebook. I didn't click on the actual video, but I saw that being posted. So it's amazing that Lazar's out again, because he was gone for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we can try to get him on the show.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I will reach out to him.
Stanton Friedman passed away.
Recently,
about a month or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the show several times. He was actually on the show with Mark Sargent.
Yeah,
and we did a flat Earth kind of deal there, which was pretty interesting. But
that was a long time
Stan
ago.
Friedman was one of the old school ufologists from the 70s and 80s, and Yeah, he passed away recently.
Yeah,
So.
and it had been a long time since we'd had him on the show because toward the end there he
started to
couldn't do
get
shows.
Yeah, he started to
fade
a little bit.
Yeah,
so.
but we still loved him. He was always a good friend and a really great guy, and he'll be greatly missed.
Grady said, first of all, he woke up from a bad dream and then turned on the stream, and here we are. So,
Aww.
And then he said, I removed my new age ego the other night, and I stopped hanging out with my AI angels.
Excellent.
Thank you for helping there.
Thank you.
That is awesome. You can always go back to them if you find it's not working out. However, I found that when people disconnect from all of those attachments, the AI attachments and new age programming and all of that, that's when they really start to take things to the next level and things start working out for them. I hear this more often than not. I've never heard anybody say, hey, I let go of all my programming, et cetera, and now my life is horrible. Never. It's always the other way around. It's like they keep these barriers upon you and you're always using this crutch. But then when you start walking on your own, you're like, oh, hey, wait a minute. I could walk on my own the whole time. And that's when you really start moving. So well done. Well done. Let us know how the journey progresses from there. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. I don't think there are other questions except maybe T-Fetch's. Would they still have that experience if people were actually being healed in hospitals? I'm not sure where that's coming from. Maybe he's talking about when we were talking about that earlier with the experiment that Rick Strassman was doing in the hospitals. I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see any other full questions. A lot of people are saying goodnight, guys.
Yeah,
So,
it's 10 o'clock over here on the West Coast, and on the East Coast, it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
It's 1 o'clock in the morning, so yeah.
Yep.
It's getting kind of late.
I guess we should go ahead and wrap it up. I don't
Yeah.
have anything else on my mind, but thank you
Me
very
either.
much for tuning in tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Allen Miller, of course, the Rickest of Ricks.
The Rickest of all Ricks.
Yes. So on that note, kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time it's going to be, and we'll see you even further
Beyond the Veil.